I don't think I've ever heard anything like this. Hey everybody, welcome to the Ultimate YouTube channel. It's your girl, Rosalie. This is so freaking powerful. Guess what time it is? Let's keep this short and simple, but I had to come on here. It's crazy to me how many people shape our life, directly and indirectly. And when it comes to music, that is the case for almost everyone on this planet, it seems, where music somehow impacts us, be it basic rhythms and the sounds of nature to music, compositions, and bands that are part of our life. Well, an artist that I know is very special to many of you who just passed away recently, rest in peace, is Ozzy Osbourne. And there is a song called Diary of a Madman, an album actually, but there's a song also called that, the title track, I suppose. And I was asked, shout out today goes to Eddie, I was asked to review the studio version because the live does not do it justice, I was told, doesn't do the song justice, nor the guitarist Randy Rhoads. And Randy Rhoads was the guitarist who put Ozzy on the map, Eddie said. He influenced a generation of guitar players. He sadly died at the age of 24 in a plane crash while on tour. And so I'm going to check out Diary of a Madman with Ozzy Osbourne. Before I do that, though, I want to see something here real quick. I want to look at a clip with you of Randy Rhoads teaching Diary of a Madman. Let's look at it together. Subscribe, buckle up for a special ride. Thank you for the suggestion, Eddie. Here we go. It's crazy how young he was. It's so sad he passed away so early. That riff was crazy. I have to start over. That's the last time, I promise, guys. I don't think I've ever heard anything like this. Like that specific chord progression, that specific riff, and the way that it's being played. It sounds so three-dimensional. This is amazing. These minor notes being used are so fitting to this idea of a madman and confusion. So fitting.
you're trying to enter me.
The strings coming in here.
Voices in the darkness scream away my mental health. And I ask a question to help me save me from myself. And instead of the pages I gave me, Monday to Sunday it's raging, set me free.
That was crazy. That was crazy. Let me hear that again. That staccato of those voices stacking and coming in and all those harmonies, that was powerful. That was crazy good. Oh my gosh. Where do I begin, you guys? Okay. Uh Ozzy Osbourne is an interesting character that I know of, whose, biggest hits I've heard parts of. If not because I wanted to, because it was playing on the radio or other people were listening. But I never dabbled into that world. And I think, as I've told you in some of the other videos and some of the other videos where I've been exploring bands, legends that I just was never exposed to or showed interest in, Ozzy is another one of those characters where, because of the satanic imagery and the darkness, that wasn't something I would listen to, I was exposed to, or wanted to expose myself to. And to be honest, it was even a level of concern that I shouldn't. Even after, after you get to an age where you can decide for yourself, some thoughts, mindsets, perspectives are just so ingrained in you. And from what I understand, Ozzy, though, a lot of there was satanic and dark imagery used often. That's just kind of his whole brand. I've read since that was for entertainment and shock value. Matter of fact, supposedly Ozzy has had expressed believing in God at times, not being a Satan worshiper. And I hear this, and I'm not only intrigued by this human being and all the things that were part of his life and his legacy. I know he's influenced endless amounts of people with his music. But I'm also intrigued as to how you can have a track. And if I'm not mistaken, this is the title of the album and also the title track, Diary of a Madman. You can have a piece that is so intricate from, I'll just start with what was in the end, the staccato and the dramatic effect of this choir and the harmonies and the sopranos, mezzo sopranos, and the emotional effect of having these voices kick in that way, adding to this feeling of being mad, going crazy. The imagery too, of course, of that little kid in the back, looking like it's laughing and grinning, laughing, snickering, whatever the word is, almost evil. Ozzy looking like he's definitely a madman. The dark imagery, right? This idea of shock and darkness and going wild. And the lyrics are very intriguing because Ozzy has dealt with different health concerns and issues throughout his life that he has spoken on, from being diagnosed with Parkinson's disease to ADHD and mental health struggles, and being an advocate for removing the stigma that comes with it. And I'm seeing here, if I didn't know those things, if I didn't dare try to understand the mind of this person from a superficial surface level, of course, we could say this just sounds like someone is just evil, right? Someone is trying to deal with their demons, right? And I could see a lot of religious people coming in saying, oh, no. If we're looking in the mirror, wondering if this is a thing that's trying to escape or live inside, trying to get out or come in, this sounds like demonic, right? And it's the language that I think either puts a lot of people off or draws a lot of people in. And it is this shock value that creates the divide and the polarization. And that often makes for great marketing. To be honest, psychologically, that's often how you get the most views, is when you create something that will cause controversy, where you can divide and have people totally against, totally for. And it makes me think even of a Bible verse, actually, where it says, that it's not good to you need to be either hot or cold, that God spits out the lukewarm. And it's interesting that even psychologically, religion aside, that's how we operate. We're more intrigued by something crazy good, crazy bad, than something that's just kind of meh. But this language that almost sounds like this is not a madman that has mental health issues, this is something demonic and spiritual. This kind of language that would imply this reflection in the mirror makes you wonder what's coming out or inside. I could see people going, oh, no. I rebuke that. Like that we don't want that. Nothing coming out, nothing coming in. This is a dark force. But we're looking at it through the lens of mental health and psychology. It really creates a completely different picture. Putting aside dark imagery for the shock value of the entertainment's sake, I see a person who is asking questions that are very relatable, more or less. That the scale may vary depending on your personal experience. Screaming out the window, watch me die another day. Hopeless situation, endless price I have to pay. Okay? The storytelling is so great. The composition, phenomenal. The guitar work, the guitar work, that's not a real word, that Randy Rhoads did here. The intricacy of the composition, the guitar solo, the staccato, the drama, the strings kicking in, Ozzy's legendary voice, all of this was phenomenal in and of itself, okay? But then you have this language that, like I said, on first glance could sound demonic or could sound like someone's really losing their minds, screaming out the window, dying another day. But taking a step back and looking at it from a psychological lens, I think this feeling of complete despair is relatable to more people than we realize, if not constantly at some point in our lives, where we feel like we're losing our minds, where maybe through grief, the loss of a loved one, depression, anxiety, through loneliness, isolation, feeling overwhelmed by the news and what's going on in the world, getting to this point where you're screaming out the window, you feel stuck, you can't see clearly, right? It's this reflection, it's this glass, it's this barrier in between. Watch me die another day, dying inside. Endless price I have to pay. Sanity now beyond me, right? It's out of reach. Diary of a Madman, walk the line again today. Entries of confusion. Okay, so I love the storytelling here. I love this songwriting that's being done here because it paints a picture that I can visualize of diary entries that are just wild. Manic depression befriends me, okay? And this, I like the honesty here because, as I said, Ozzy had his own struggle with health, but a lot of people can relate to this. Too, if they have bipolar disorder or borderline personality disorder, people that struggle with depression or with severe anxiety. This goes for people that have experienced postpartum depression or postpartum psychosis. This is not just one little diagnosis, all little textbook. This applies just to that group, right? This doesn't just apply to people that have dabbled in the dark and are now, we're talking demonic forces or anything like that, right? We're talking people. We're talking human beings who know what it's like to feel like something befriended you. Something is closer to you than you want it to be. Maybe even inside of you. Sanity now beyond me, there's no choice. Hear his voice. Okay, and the language, of course, paints this picture of this dark force, some demon, some devil. Hear his voice. Whose voice? But on a mental health level, to me, this makes me think of different mental disorders and personality disorders. Hearing voices, literally, possibly schizophrenia. Hearing voices in the metaphorical sense, as in that inner critic. We've talked about this even as we reviewed Citizen Soldier. And it's interesting to me how you can have a song, and depending on who's singing it, how it's done, the brand of the person singing it, that will look at it differently. I hear Citizen Soldier talking about an inner critic, and we may not think, oh, this is demonic. We may think mental health because it's presented that way. Ozzy singing about it, we may go, oh my gosh, this is evil, instead of slowing down and going, wait a minute. Let's talk about this. A sickened mind and spirit, the mirror tells me lies. That part stood out to me as I was listening because I thought, when we feel like our mind is sick, it's such a lonely place to be because external wounds maybe can be seen by others and we can treat more easily, more or less. But when it's inside, especially when it's in the mind, it's so much harder to get to, but it's also invisible. It's these wounds and scars that often other people can't see. And when you have a sickened spirit, that's such a painful place to be because that's within us. There's a Bible verse from Proverbs, a saying, a wisdom saying in Proverbs 17:22 that says that a joyful heart is good medicine and a broken spirit dries up the bones. And regardless of your religion, there's wisdom to be found in religious texts. Regardless if you can agree with all of the creed or you can find beauty in the various teachings, something to be said about that wisdom saying. It's true. A joyful spirit is like medicine. You can be physically feeling off, but if you feel good in your spirit, if you have a happy heart, if you feel whole, not only does that make us feel better emotionally, psychologically, but physically, right? When we're under stress, when we're suffering and our cortisol levels are up, that stress hormone, that affects our immune system and the rest of our body. It's all connected. We're holistic beings. So this is not only psychology, this is physical science too, right? When our spirit is well, our whole body will be better. And when our spirit is broken, when our mind is broken, it affects our body. It dries up the bones. It ruins our immune system. So it's interesting that we find that in religious texts. We find that in Ozzy lyrics, this idea of a sickened mind and spirit. This is just how broken I am and what it's doing with me. The mirror tells me lies. It's painting this picture of the window and the mirror, and how what you're looking at, the reflection, where you would long to see clarity, where you look into the mirror, maybe to see what's really going on, to get clarity. We're experiencing the opposite, which is lies and confusion, making it worse. Could I mistake myself for someone who lives behind my eyes? Is this really me that I'm seeing in the mirror? Is there something inside of me? How do I get rid of it? What am I going to do? And that begs the question, is that now part of me or something separate? Or is this something trying to get into me? Is there something, a force out there trying to enter me? Again, painting this picture of demonic and crazy. But when it comes to mental health, a very relatable picture. This feeling of, is this something within me? Is this who I am? And that is a question that I think often mental disorders and struggles lead to, because we may get a diagnosis and then the question arises, does this mean that's who I am? Is this something I have or who I am? It plays into these questions we now have about sense of self and identity. Voices in the darkness scream away my mental health. Can I ask a question to help me save me from myself? Wow. Enemies fill up the pages. Beautiful songwriting, taking us back to this idea of a diary. Are they me? Is this me? These evil voices, these enemies, this enemy that I'm fighting, an enemy being an adversary, something that goes against me. Is that me or something external? And that is a powerful question to ask. And that's something we can find ourselves working through in therapy, where we have to ask ourselves, what is my relationship to this disorder, to this ailment? Is this who I am? Is this something internal? Is this external? Can I get rid of it? And then, like I said, that staccato, the drama of the O's at the end, just almost like it's consuming, it's just taking over. This was a very good song, and it's crazy to me just how deep Ozzy's lyrics are. Phenomenal guitar skills, and crazy, again, like I said in the beginning, full circle, how someone like Randy Rhoads, who sadly passed away so early, was such an influence as a guitarist, who influenced a generation of guitar players. Ozzy, in turn, doing what he did, influencing so many artists around the world. I mean, I just reviewed Jack Black's version of an Ozzy song. You see just how that ripples and how we can impact other lives, and we get to decide what we're going to do with our art, with our work, with our lives, even with our struggles. Thank you for the suggestion, Eddie. This is crazy deep. What are your thoughts on this, guys? Subscribe for more music from around the world as we dive deep into lyrics and compositions. I will see you on the next ride. Ayo.